Alright, good morning Wasteland, Mr. G live from the public test server, and we are going to take a look at the biggest proposed set of balance changes I have ever seen in Crossout. There's a ton. We're going to go through them one by one. The only one I'm going to skip right now is the cord, because really, who in their right mind thought the cord needed a 10% nerf? Well, we're going to start out the door with rare weapons, and we're going to work our way up. Now, first of all, for all of the rare weapons, they're all going to be receiving a power score reduction of 13%, which is decently significant. And the first weapon they decided to get was the Wasp. It is getting hit with a Nerf bat with a damage reduction of 7%. Now, the Wasp has always been a really awesome rare weapon. If you've never used it, it's been in a good spot. I suppose a nerf of 7% isn't the worst thing that could happen to this particular weapon. Next on our list is the Judge, which is getting hit with the Nerf bat and getting a damage reduction of 5%. Which is probably fair considering the Judge is one of the best cannons in the game, and it's coming in at a pretty low power score considering it is of rarity. Oh, we're doing a nice little backflip over there. Next on our list of things getting hit with the Nerf bat, the little boy, instead of getting a damage reduction though, it is getting its cooldown increased from 3.5 to 4 seconds. Apparently they thought you could shoot pretty much non-stop if you were running a Colossus and an Echo, which was true. Also another really good rare category weapon. If you haven't used the little boy, it's a great way to learn how to use cannons. It's the first turreted cannon that you can aim in all directions. Next rare weapon on the list to get hit with the Nerf bat, the Rapier. Already one of the wimpiest weapons out there as a autocannon. They've now decided to go ahead and let's hit this thing with the Nerf bat, not once but twice. Let's reduce the damage by 10% and reduce the durability from 153 to 140. And you're already doing 25 points of damage, which is like cord level damage, which is pretty wimpy. No idea why autocannons are going to get hit with the Nerf bat so bad in this proposed changes. Next up, to get hit with the double Nerf bat, the Defender. It's going to get the same nerf as the Rapier. It's going to get the 10% damage nerf as well as a durability reduction from 153 to 140. Now right off the bat, you're going, why are machine guns and autocannons getting hit with nerf? If anything, they probably need buffed. Not quite sure either. All I can say is at least this is not implemented in game yet. It's only in testing. Next up, we're looking at the Vector Shotgun. It is getting a 7% damage reduction. Now, I can assume the devs are using, hopefully, data on their end to show which builds are most used, which builds get the most wins, etc., to go ahead and dial these in. But some of these just feel like they don't make a whole lot of sense, especially the ones in regards to autocannons and machine guns. 7% on this particular shotgun, okay. Doesn't feel like that heavy of a nerf, but we'll see. Next up, we're going to look at another shotgun, Sledgehammer. It's getting hit with a 5% damage reduction. Yeah, okay, so they're hitting shotguns, they're hitting machine guns, and they're hitting autocannons as far as items they decided needed to be nerfed. And cannons. Not cannons I can get, shotguns I can get. Machine guns and autocannons I don't understand. Alright, we are breaking into the special category, or rarity of weapons, and they are all getting a power score reduction of 7%, just like blue rarity items. First out the door, the Prosecutor, which for some insane reason, is actually going to get a gunshot damage increase of 15%. It's already one of the best cannons in the game. Cannon perk is improved. Now the shell explodes after breaking through 102 units or 100 centimeters of armor. So they're not only buffing the damage, they're improving the armor penetration perk. Okay, don't really know why this gun needed a buff. It was already literally one of my favorite cannons in the game. It is stupidly good. It's like the Executioner, but less power score. Really accurate, really stupidly solid damage. I don't know what they were smoking when they were like, let's buff the Prosecutor. Alright, next on our list, we've got the Hulk. The Hulk is going to get a damage reduction of 7%, which makes sense considering cannons tend to be overpowered, and this is one of the best cannons you can start out with in the game. Next on our list for getting hit with the Nerf bat, the AC-50 is getting a damage reduction of 10%, and they're reducing the durability pretty largely from 190 to 161. Oh my god. 20 whole points of damage. Good thing they nerfed this. And who was complaining that autocannons had too much durability? Literally no one. So Tarjum, we're a little confused. I mean, this is a wimpy gun. I mean, it was already felt wimpy before the nerf. Now it feels stupidly wimpy. Alright, next up, to get hit with the Nerf bat, the Sinus gets a damage reduction of 5%, and it's going to lose 7 durability points, going from 97 down to 90. Yep, why are machine guns getting the nerf? Not sure. Alright, next up we're going to look at the Emily. The weapon now reloads faster, cooldown reduced from 5 to 4.2. That's fair. I mean, that's a long reload cooldown, and you don't see a lot of people using the Emily. I mean, it can be decent, but you just don't see a lot of people using it. That one makes sense. Next up, we're looking at the junk bow, which has always been a good weapon in my opinion, but for some reason it's getting a damage increase of 5%. And it's getting a durability increase from 235 up to 252, which is pretty massive in my opinion. It was already a really strong shotgun weapon. For now, for some reason, it's getting a buff. Okay, somebody explain that one to me. And next up, we're on the mace. Now, the junk bow got a buff, but the mace gets itself a nerf. Now, the mace was a really good shotgun. It's special rarity. It's getting a 6% damage nerf. Okay, I'll allow it. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the piercer. No change in damage, simply a durability increase. Yeah, these things get stripped off faster than a wet fart in a windstorm. I don't know. Yeah, these things just come right off. So thank you for buffing the durability. If only I would say buff the durability more on these, because they're a fun weapon. They just come right off. Next up, we're looking at the synthesis plasma emitter. It's getting a damage buff of 5%, and I'm thinking the reason they're doing that is because when they made it so you could just hold left click, they gave it a damage nerf. So I feel like they're dialing back the damage nerf they put on it before. But already, it was a pretty good weapon, but gets some more love, I guess. And the last of our special rarity weapons that we're going to look at today, Boomstick gets a damage reduction in 7%. Not that that's really going to change too much how Lancers are going to go and play, but we'll just have to see and wait how that plays out. Alright guys, next up we're going to talk about epic rarity stuff, and it's getting a power score reduction of 7%, just like rare and just like special. And the first thing they did is they went ahead and they made tracks so they turn a little bit faster. So that they perform a little bit better and are a little bit more maneuverable, because right now we all know tracks are outperformed by legs and by hover in almost all regards. First weapon we're going to look at is the Locust, getting a damage reduction of 7%. I can see that. That makes sense. Rockets are pretty strong. Now, the Executioner, which is arguably one of the best cannons in the game, gets a buff. Now, the ammo buff I can get behind, so it gets, instead of 8, it gets 10 pieces of ammo, but they've increased the armor penetration from a little bit. They've improved it, so now it penetrates 132 centimeters of armor, or 132 units, whatever unit is, and 200 centimeters of armor, which is a fair amount of penetration. Alright, next up we're going to look at the Elephant. Elephant is getting hit with a nerf, damage nerf of 5%, but it's also going to get a durability reduction. It's one of the strongest turreted cannons in the game. Really hard to take this thing off or strip it, so that one makes sense. Now, the Whirlwind, which in my opinion is just another autocannon that's not that good, is getting hit with a double nerf bat. Damage reduction of 5%, but they're also reducing the durability of this thing from 420 all the way down to 390. And if you look at the hitbox on this thing, it is absolutely massive. So that seems like a really, really stupid nerf in my opinion. Next up, the Adapter is getting a damage buff of 5%. Finally, a machine gun getting a buff. We will take it. Yeah, solid. Solid, no problems with that. Alright, next up, we're going to look at the Incinerator, and part heating speed is increased by 33%. a massive buff. I don't feel like anybody looked at fire damage and went, it's not strong enough in the game, but there you have it. It's going to heat up parts a lot more. They're going to take more damage quicker. Alright, next up we're going to look at the spike. It's getting a double buff. A buff to have damage to 7%, but a whopping 30% increase to projectile speed. Let's shoot at the 100-meter target and take a look. And I missed. Because it's early. Nobody, don't judge me. Look at that. Alright, that feels like it's pretty good right now. Give you guys all practice for using the toadfish. I mean, you don't see a lot of these in gameplay anymore, but they were really decent when they first came out. Okay, we'll take the buff for this one, I guess. Alright, the GL55, which they're calling a different name on here. They're calling it the AGS-55 Impulse. I think they're renaming all the weapons. Gets a buff nerf. It's going to get more ammo, but it's going to get a rate of fire decrease. Hopefully, devs, you'll actually add co-drivers into the game that affect things like grenade launchers. All around good weapon. I have no problems with a minor nerf to this one. Spectre 2 gets a durability increase. I think all machine guns could use a durability increase because they just get stripped by cannons, so I'm not going to complain for that one. I'm just not sure why some machine guns are getting a buff to durability and others are not. Alright, next up we're going to look at the Jewel. It is getting a durability reduction from 240 down to 216, and it's getting an explosion damage reduction of 5%. So once again, auto cannons across the board are getting hit with the Nerf bat. Now the trigger, which I don't think anybody felt was wimpy, is getting a buff to part heating speed, just like the incinerator. So once again, significant buff to damage on the trigger. Alright, next up we're looking at the Thunderbolt. It's getting a 5% damage increase, also getting a durability increase from 157 up to 173. So shotguns we can see pretty much across the board, most of them getting buffs, machine guns and autocannons getting nerfs, cannons all across the board, nerfs and buffs. Let's keep taking a look. Okay, Fafnir is getting a double buff. One that the perk is now going to hit 30% at 60 miles an hour, so easier to use the perk, and it's going to get a durability buff from 300 to 315. Alright, so looks like the Junk Bow Fafnir class of weapons are all getting some love and some buffs, which is strange because they were already great. Alright, next up we're looking at the Pyre. It is getting two massive buffs. It's getting a damage or explosion damage increase of 15%, but it's also getting a missile speed increase of 15%. So now these are going to be more annoying and harder to dodge when you're driving around. Can we get a lock on somebody, please? Please? Anyone? Anyone? Let's try that again. Let's try that again. Get us a lock. We didn't put a radar on this. Come on. Come on. Meh. I don't much care for Pyre, so I'm not real experienced on that one. Alright, next up, the Flute is getting a double nerf. Damage nerf of 5% and missile durability reduced by 25%. So I guess it's going to make it easier to shoot these down when you see them coming at you. Which makes sense. Alright, that's a nerf, but it feels like a well-placed nerf. And way to think about how they did that one. Well done. Alright, next up we're looking at the King Mine Layer. It is getting a double nerf. Explosion radius reduced by 10% and mine durability reduced by 15%. So easier to shoot these and blow them up. And the radius of explosion not quite as big as it once was. The last epic weapon we're going to be testing today is the Lancelot. And just like with the boomstick, they've just gone ahead and given it a damage reduction of 7%. Don't imagine that's going to affect really big Lancer builds that are going to one-shot you anyway, but we'll have to wait and see. Now on to legendaries. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, last rarity that they touched was legendary. There are no changes coming to relic weapons. We're going to begin with the Tsunami, which used to be my favorite, well, after the Reaper, was my favorite legendary. The Tsunami shells have an additional feature. They explode after breaking through 120 3 units or 100 centimeters of armor. So they've gone ahead and gave it the perk that the prosecutor and the executioner have, and that it has armor penetration, which should be a really good perk for this thing and make it a solid buff for this overall. Next up, continuing with the massive nerfs to autocannons, 5% damage reduction on the Cyclone, and a huge durability reduction of 523 to 486. And look at the hitbox on this. That's going to affect that weapon quite a bit. So big old nerf to the Cyclone. Next up, the Reaper. Only change to the Reaper is they're giving you more base ammunition for this thing. So not a huge change, but that'll be nice for people that do like to play these. You can see they obviously have not reduced the recoil on this. And continuing on with their buffs to fire damage, the Draco is going to get a damage increase of 5, flame speed increase of 20%, and an ammunition increase from 120 to 175. I don't think anybody was complaining that fire weapons were underpowered, but they're going to be in an even better spot now. Next up, the Assembler is getting a damage reduction of 7%. I love the Assembler, but Coldfire was always saying that it's wimpy. So I'm not sure how I feel about a damage reduction on this thing of 7%. Feels like it doesn't already do that much damage anyway, but there you have it. Our legendary machine gun, the Aspect, appears to be one of the only machine guns getting a buff. It's getting a damage increase of 7% and a durability increase of 200 up to 220. Those are buffs that I'd like to see to most machine guns across the board. A little more durability and a little bit more damage. Alright guys, the Imp, while it doesn't get a durability increase, is going to receive a damage increase of 7%. Which is funny they decided to give legendary machine guns buffs, but not the ones that most new players are going to be starting the game with and using. Alright, the Pulsar, one of my favorite weapons, is getting hit with the Nerf bat not once, not twice, but thrice. That's right, it's getting a damage reduction of 5%. It's getting an explosion radius reduction of 7%. And it's getting a durability reduction, a big one, from 770 down to 693. So Pulsar players, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, guys. It's a great weapon. It's now become less great. Alright, we're up with the Hurricane. The Hurricane is going to receive a double buff, just like the Pyre. Missiles are going to go 15% faster, and I didn't put a radar on this, and they're also going to do 15% more damage. So expect to hear that homing missile sound in battle a lot more over the coming weeks. And last, but certainly not least, the Annihilator wasn't getting done put in the corner and beaten to death with Nerf bats. It's now going to get a durability reduction more than it already had, 10% more durability reduction. Guys, I am exhausted. That was a lot of things to look at, but there's your buffs, there's your nerfs. Remember, this is just in testing. They probably and most likely will change a lot of this based on your feedback. Let me know what you think in the comments to this video, because I do know Tarjum does check these out because I tweet them to him on the Twitter. Alright guys, like and subscribe for all things Crossout. Stay safe out there on the wasteland, I mean Earth. I'll catch you on the next one. Mr. G, out.